Alright, welcome back baseball fans to another elimination video. Tonight we're going to eliminate an expansion team, Portland. A team that won its expansion division, though they were only scheduled to play 30 of the 34 games in their division and only 4 outside of it. So that's probably why they had such a great record. That's sort of why the Fall League schedule is a little zany for that particular reason, to get more of a random result. You play intensely against your division rivals and don't play outside of it. So therefore, you have a chance for a couple teams to make the playoffs who might not normally make it. And that makes the Fall League a little bit more random than the Summer League, which is more closely structured for the cream to rise to the top, you could say, and closer to tradition. But good to see an expansion team venture into the postseason. And this Portland squad, well, a nice collection of players that were very important to their major league teams. And they would hit .301, scoring 158 runs, giving up 146 runs, .392 ERA. Led, I think, it's hard to figure out who their best player is. I kind of like Terry Poole, who Houston would miss in that outfield. He hit .302 with 14 stolen bases. They also have Chet Lemon, who the White Sox certainly would miss, hitting .287 with 3 homer and 25 RBI. We also have Bob Horner, the big bat from Atlanta. But they have plenty of big bats, so they don't miss him that much yet, I guess. He had .258, which is 6 home runs, which is ordinary. Again, this team did hit .301, and you got to look at the top. With some amazing performances, they have 5 guys hitting .333 or better. 3 of those as everyday players. Let's begin with a double play combination from, who would dream this one up, folks? You had Tom Verizon. Was he with Cleveland or Detroit in that particular year? I can just check this really quickly here. So Verizon, you know, he was a important member of the Cleveland Indians in '78, replacing, I guess, Frank Duffy at short. He hits .342 in this one. And then you have Art Howe, was a Houston Astro, along with Poole. Hits .333. That's your double play combo. And Milner, missing from those '79 Pirates, also did a nice job. The pitching, Jerry Royce, the solid lefty that the Dodgers are missing. The Dodgers have unfortunately lost all their lefties through expansion. They lost Doug Rowell to retirement. They lost Jerry Royce, expansion Portland, and they would lose Fernando Valenzuela's rookie card to Arizona. So the Dodgers don't have a good lefty starter. They have Jim Umbarger. That's all they could find. Again, every team will have a certain weakness, and that's a story for a Dodger video that we have to get to later. But anyway, besides Royce, Rasmussen did an admirable job backing him up. 5-2, .330 ERA. Randy Lurch had a really dismal year, but you saw the game. He pitched okay, giving up 3 runs in 6 innings, but finishes just 2-3. Skip Lockwood, Willie Hernandez closing out games. Again, good stats, 19-13. Yeah, just they didn't have a lot of experience. They had some defensive lapses, and that's the end of their little run. Now let's take a look at what they're going to do with the 1980 guys. So we're going to open up their stack here, pull out the 1978 guys. There's 1, there's 2, there's 3, there's 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Okay. So these are the 8 players, and they're going to be all over baseball since they don't have a farm system. And some interesting players here. We're going to see some everyday players. Yeah, it's a mix of everyday guys you would expect to continue on, and some guys who are, you know, kind of ordinary there. But let's first see the 12 guys who we know will make up their roster next year. So let's turn a Royce over, and let's turn over a Hernandez. Okay. We're going to go 7 and 5. 7 hitters and 5 pitchers. So we got a catcher here. We have a first baseman. We have an infielder, a third baseman, a couple third basemen, and an outfield. So Barry Foote is a capable catcher, was a Cub. Milner, you know, we saw him at first. Horner could probably be better served as a DH, but he's a third baseman. But they also have Dave Chalk as a guy whose best defensive position is third base, sort of as late inning defensive replacement for Horner when they get a lead, something they didn't have in a Dodger series. Terry Poole with great defense, 1E0. What a great card that is. 287 card. This incredible Clint Hurdle card, just in a platoon, but my goodness. And Gary Ward, who really crushes lefties here, and, you know, has a nice year with the Twins. And they would have 5 pitchers. Their ace is still Jerry Royce. Rasmussen is the 2. And the other 3 guys are all relievers. Caudill, Hernandez, Skip Lockwood coming back. Nice mix, nice balance. 7 and 5, no serious weakness. So it remains to be seen if Portland can put back together a playoff caliber team. It's tough for these expansion teams because there's a lot of ups and downs. Because a lot of these players are in and out of Major League Baseball every 4 years. So we'll see what they can do with those 8 players from 1978. Okay, let's take a look at what Portland does with those 8 1978 players. We're going to begin with Art Howe, who should have a nice little bit of time left here, as I recall. There's Art, a very young Art Howe. Becomes a manager, of course. And he had a nice little run here with the Astros, beginning in 76, all the way through to 84. There's some nice numbers in here. 293 card, 248, 283, 296. So 3 nice years out of 4 there. And he is, you know, would be the property of the Astros if they came calling, but he sort of becomes property of Portland in this situation. They don't want to let him go. They don't want to lose this guy. So for now, he's a keeper, but we always entertain trade opportunities if it improves the long term, and if Houston comes calling, we'll consider a trade. Next up, Chet Lemon. Wow, another guy. He's just getting started, folks. Chet Lemon. White Sox, and then he doesn't stay there long. Ends up in Detroit. Maybe that was a mistake the White Sox made. Look at that. He's 26 years old, and he's gone. I don't know why the White Sox did not sign him up for a long-term run there. 84, he's part of a World Series team and an all-star performance for the Detroit Tigers. But he is going to stick around here with only the White Sox come calling. And again, Portland needs all the help they can get. So they're going to hold him with Lemon. And again, if the White Sox overwhelm them with a trade offer, they can have their guy back. Next up is Johnny Oates. Mairzy Oates and Johnny Oates. And Johnny Oates, kind of a part-time player. Had this nice little card in his 78, 307. And after that, yeah, 3 more years of just marginal play. And I don't think they make a Strat-O-Matic card in 79 with the Dodgers for waivers. We can check that out. We'll go to SuperDeestripod.com and look at the roster sheet for the Dodgers to see if Strat-O-Matic printed his card, which would get him to qualify for waivers. They have Ferguson and Yeager as their catchers. And they have Hatcher, Moto, Patterson, and Rowell. So no, that's going to be the end of Johnny Oates. He will be retired. All right, next up, Mickey Stanley. I think he's in a similar situation. Mickey Stanley's got to be getting up there in age. Longtime Detroit Tiger. 64 to 78. Mickey Stanley, lifetime Tiger. But they let him go, and he's done in 78. So that was his last year in baseball, and he gets retired. So 2 keepers and 2 retired players. Next hitter, and you saw half of that double play combination, Art Howell and Tom Verizor. So here is Tom. Tom Verizor, he was Verizor this year. Did a nice job, 340 in a platoon. Detroit, Cleveland, Mets, Cubs. Anytime you see a guy with a lot of teams, expansion teams like to pick these guys up, give them a home. So he went from Detroit to Cleveland in 78, and then he went from that to Portland. 78 had that great year. Then in 79, he qualifies for waivers, but he's 220. 80, his batting average is back up. 81 is back down. You could make him a keeper, just because you could get that 80 card, which is better than the 79 card. You could put him on waivers. You have your choice. What we'll do now is we always put a guy as a keeper first. Then when we get too many keepers, we put them on waivers. So we're up to 3 and 2. Now the pitchers, 3 of them. The first is Randy Lurch. He did his best. He tried hard against the Dodgers in that Game 3 you saw. It just did not work out. Randy Lurch, and he had like a couple good years, and he also struggled a lot. 79 he was good, 78, and then after that it gets kind of dicey. Yeah, it doesn't look good at all after that. So, and he's bouncing around all over the place now. Perfect expansion team player, a guy who bounces around. So after that performance in 78, he's still as good in 79. Look at that. Similar performance, can pitch on 3 days rest. You got to keep that. A left-handed starting pitcher can pitch on 3 days rest, and you're an expansion team. Yeah, that's coming back. Randy Lurch. All right, next player. It is Frost. Dave Frost. The California Angels have advanced to the League Championship Series 2 years in a row. They're doing it without Dave Frost, who had a very short bit of excellence, tall guy, 6'6", with the Angels in these years. Take a look at 78 and 79. They would be the high mark of his career. 78 card is expired with a 118 whip. We can bring him back and pitch on 3 days rest as a 16-game winner. So think about that. That 79 Angel team went to the League Championship Series. He's not contributing to that in my league. Those Angels are doing it with Nolan Ryan, Frank Tanana, and Paul Hartzell as top 3. So they might come calling for Frost next year. So I'm going to keep him. He's such a good player. He's got one more good year. And then after that, he'll be retired. But he's got one more good year left in 79. That'll be next year. That's also a trade possibility. And lastly, Charlie Huff, who, my goodness, he's just getting started, folks. He's got a long, he'll pitch into 1994, folks. Mr. Time Machine, Charlie Huff, did not pitch in 69. That would have been interesting because he would have qualified for 4 decades, something Jim Cott did. So he only has 3 decades here, 70s, 80s, and 90s. But here you have this era here. When he goes to Texas, he becomes a regular member of the rotation, but that doesn't happen until 1982, but that year is in play next year. So, interestingly, they could move Huff into the rotation and trade Frost, since Frost only has 1 more year left. That's what I would do, because there's not much difference between Huff and Frost performance-wise, and you get Huff for 4 years. You only have Frost for 1. So that's what you really should do. So under Charlie Huff, I'm going to make a note saying rotation. Am I going to put him in the rotation here and get rid of Frost? So this is excellent for an expansion team. 6 guys they want to keep. They can only keep 4. So they should make the phone calls, see if somebody comes calling for, really Chet Lemon would be the best guy to go after. Particularly like if the Detroit Tigers should go after him, since we know the Tigers use him in '84. Again, California could go after Dave Frost, but that's what you have with the 6. Or if nobody rings the phone and you have to only keep 4, you could end up putting Randy Lurch on waivers since he's not as good. You might have to put Tom Bereiser on waivers too if nobody comes for a trade. The keeper number, column 1, $10,000 for a keeper, $100 for waivered guys, and $1 for retired. When you look at the league as a whole to this point, the league is got 151, and you have to get down to 128. That's 23. They have 23 extra keepers that they can't keep. So they're going to have to go, and they need 7 of those guys to be on waivers, and they need 16 of those guys to be in retirement of those 23. So that means that the waiver class will be very talented. Very desirable players will be on waivers, and it'll be first come, first serve in the draft next year. That's it tonight for eliminating the Portland expansion team. Hope you're enjoying these elimination videos. We'll see you next time.